Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today we're going to go over my favorite Sansevieria or snake plants. If you know anything about snake plants, you probably know how resilient they are. So there are many reasons to love snake plants or Sansevieria, but I'm going to give you a few more today. And I want to say before we even start this video that I'm so well aware that Sansevierias have been reclassified to Dracaena in botany, but we're going to give them their final moment as Sansevieria, or we're probably going to continue to call them Sansevieria for a really long time, but I'm going to refer to them as their old taxonomy for this video for research reasons and just because I don't know what their new names are. So we are going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 of my favorite Sansevierias that I grow in my home. I grow a number of Sansevieria around my house. They are phenomenal because I know if I really like it, I can put it in a bright windowsill and it's going to flourish. And if I'm just like, I can put it anywhere and it's going to look the same for however long I keep it in that area. And I don't really have to worry about it dying as long as I don't overwater it. Maybe that's not necessarily true. Your Sansevierias cannot live indefinitely in a low light area. If you do any research about Sansevieria, you're probably going to say that they're great for low light or no light, and they can totally tolerate that situation, but it's only for a matter of time. So eventually you're going to have a very weak looking Sansevieria or snake plant, but for the longevity of the plant, if you do grow it in a bright window, you're going to find some serious rewarding growth of this plant that you might not exactly expect, because these plants are so out there looking in terms of their appearance, their foliage, their texture, whatever you want to refer to it as. They are just so funky and out there. They're very architectural. So getting started with a rather bright and colorful one, this right here is a Sansevieria trifasciata Hahnii Gold. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so hard remembering all these names. And I'm actually seeing it has a baby. Oh my gosh, I rarely pull my plants out of their spots. I want to say I have a lot of plants and they usually go in their space that they live, and unless it's getting moved or sprayed down for treatment, and I usually don't have any pest issues with my Sansevierias, or at least I've never have, they do not leave their area that they live in. So I've rarely pulled this one out. It's been facing me from this direction, and until I just pulled this one out, I didn't even realize it has a beautiful new baby growing in. This is a very bright colored Hahnii Sansevieria. So the Hahnii are the bird's nest Sansevierias, and typically they stay rather small and squat, and they are quite prolific with the babies, at least from what I've seen at work. But I actually picked out this one a couple of years ago just because I really, or not a couple of years ago, but like a year and a half ago, because I just really enjoyed the way it looked. I think this color is very striking compared to some of the other Sansevierias I grow in my home, specifically the more standard ones on the market. So I just fell in love with this bright green and bright, almost like pale yellow coloration that it has. So you can tell from the color of this and how tight together it is that it would prefer a brighter light situation. So I do grow this one in a western facing window, and I'm probably giving it water often enough, like probably like every 10 to 20 days, I would say, which I would say is often for a Sansevieria. But given it's in a rather small terracotta pot in a very well draining porous mixture that I would say is probably roughly like it's about 2 parts soil to 1 part perlite. This is a very easygoing plant, and it just seems to love life clearly with its new baby coming up. So Sansevieria trifasciata Hahnii Gold, and they're the most common species of Sansevieria that I would say is on the houseplant market would be trifasciata. So a lot of these plants are going to be different types of trifasciata, although I do have a few others in the mix. So moving on, let's do another trifasciata. Speaking of that, this one, I don't actually know for sure the name of this. I think this is the only one that I'm not positive on the name that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. This is another type of trifasciata though. I think this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is Sansevieria trifasciata Black Gold. So this is known for its yellow edging, but the dark, nearly black color in the center that doesn't really have that snakeskin streaking that you'll typically see with the Sansevieria trifasciata Laurentii, which is the more standard yellow-edged Sansevieria. So I really enjoy how this one is just so plain and dark in the center, and then on the edges it's just very well highlighted. I think this one really stands out. I've been growing this one not long as well. I think I've had this one for probably maybe a little over 2 years, and it has since put off this whole new baby plant similar to the Hahnii that I just shared with you guys that had that little baby. This is an adult baby because this baby has outgrown the mother plant, as you can see, and has this much taller foliage right here. So this one I have as well in a very well draining mixture because this Sansevieria is potted, thank you very much, because this Sansevieria is potted in a ceramic planter that I have drilled a hole into the bottom of. I have this in a little bit more of a perlite heavy mixture. So this is probably more of like 1-to-1 equal parts perlite to soil, just to keep make sure that I'm not going to overwater this plant. So the soil's a little bit more gritty, which I find works out a little better for this. This one actually sits directly next to that Sansevieria trifasciata Hahnii gold. So they are receiving the same exact light conditions, and I will say I'm probably watering this one a little bit less often due to the fact that it is in a ceramic pot. But I really, really enjoy this one. I think I actually found this one at a farmer's market a couple of years ago, and I just like fell head over heels for the black color, because you don't see it that often in Sansevierias. Let's move on to a different species. This is, I think, Sansevieria hahlii, so very similar to the Hahnii sounding, but this is hahlii, and I think they either call this the baseball bat Sansevieria, or like I've even heard it called like the fat boy Sansevieria, but to each their own. This is just so different. It's so thick. It's a lot different. It almost reminds me more of like, you know, you hear the whale fin and the shark fin Sansevieria called interchangeably, but this looks more like a shark fin to me than the whale fin. They always, you know, you guys might know what I'm saying. The whale fin's not going to be on my list today. I hate to say it, but I just think this is so fun. I love the little bits of texture that the leaves have. It's got that classic snakeskin look, but with a completely different overhauled appearance, if you will. It's very different. It's very 2020. I just love the look. I also really enjoy the Sansevierias. I know that the whale fin does have it in particular, but and the jerboa, they have this kind of like brown dried edging to them, and it's such a small characteristic, but I love it. I think it's the little things that you just really appreciate, and it's almost like they're like peeling away like corn husk at the edges. It's so interesting. I don't know the science behind it, but I would love to know. But the Sansevieria hahlii is one that I just wished I saw a little bit more often. I don't think I actually have ever gotten this in stock at the plant store where I work. I think this was actually a gift from a friend who's a buyer at another store, but just such a fun, much more succulent Sansevieria. I'm growing this one in a southern facing window. It is in probably a 1-to-1 mixture of perlite to soil, and it is in a terracotta pot. You can see these white terracotta pots looked a lot better to me when I first got them, and the more I have it, I'm realizing how ugly they get very quickly. I shouldn't say ugly, let's call it character, because I don't really mind it, but I feel like some very type A people might want these white terracotta pots, and this is not going to do them very much justice after just a couple of months, or I think I've had it in here for probably about a year now, maybe not even that, but a really, really fun Sansevieria. You just don't see it that often. I'm rambling at this point, so let's move on to another one. This is probably the smallest one I'm going to talk about today. This is Sansevieria, I think it's ehrenbergii, and they call it the samurai Sansevieria, and this is a very small one. I've actually still have this in the pot that I bought it in, sitting inside. Oh, it lost his pants, but his pants are inside the pot, and this is from Trader Joe's. I think I got this for like $3 a year or two ago. And I was just like shocked when I walked into Trader Joe's and saw Sansevieria Samurai sitting there for $3. So I need to change the pot. I'm not a really big fan of this pot, if I will, but I actually have this sitting up on a shelf on a wall above our dining room table. It's my circle shelf, if any of you are familiar. And I don't touch this. I can't even tell you the last time I watered it. This thing has not gotten a lick of sunshine. It's probably like, looking at it, probably like 7 to 8 feet away from a western facing window. So I should probably move this plant soon if I really want to do it some more justice, because I freaking love this plant. It is just to die for. It's got these really sharp tips, and I was saying about how they have, some Sansevierias have that little like dried out brown edging. This one has it for sure, and it works its way all the way to the tip, and the tip is like totally dried and like sharp and pointy. Like you could do some damage with someone. You could, if you need a weapon at home, if you don't have a baseball bat and you have an intruder, you can just grab your Sansevieria ehrenbergii samurai to do the trick. So I'm not recommending ever using your plants as a weapon, just in self-defense. But a really, really interesting plant. It's so different than the other Sansevierias I'm sharing today. More on par with the Sansevieria hahlii or the baseball bat Sansevieria, just with how different it looks. And from how thick this is, I can tell you I should be giving this more light. For the longevity of this plant, I should really consider moving it into a window this upcoming growing season, but it's done nothing but live and, if not prosper, for me for the whole time I've had it. So I really enjoyed this one. Okay, so this one right here is another type of the trifasciata, or the Sansevieria trifasciata. This one is Sansevieria trifasciata Gold Flame. And this one's very special to me because it was a gift from my friend's mom. What's so striking about the Sansevieria is how the yellow color leaks in to the rest of the plant. You can see here's another really nice leaf right here. There's some really nice foliage on this plant. So some of the leaves might look a little bit more like your standard Laurentii, which is, as I mentioned, just the standard Sansevieria with the yellow edging. This one just has a little bit more character. So I'm head over heels for this one. It's so lovely. And after a couple years of owning it, we have another baby coming up, which I am very excited about. So this one's just really special to me. I don't know if it's like, rare or anything like that. It's honestly just very, very special to me for that reason alone. Because it's a very close friend of mine and I'm very close with her mother. And I just think it's so funny that, all these years that we were friends, I had no idea that her mom had a plant obsession. But of course it wasn't until my very early 20s that I became so plant obsessed. So this one is just another one that I'm gonna keep with me for all of time. Another Sansevieria trifasciata, and this is going to be the last one we talk about today. Not the last one, the last trifasciata we talk about. I have one more after this to share with you guys. This is Sansevieria trifasciata Bantel Sensation, and this is the white streak Sansevieria, and this one to me is like the most alien. This does not look like a plant. This is so out there. I feel like I've said multiple times in other videos, but if like you get your face like really like close up in this plant, like it doesn't look like a plant. Like it just looks like a piece of art. And I love to just like take the camera and just like stick it up close in this plant and just like take a few pictures because you just don't even know what you're looking at. It's just so out there. The color alone, the texture, the look of the entire plant and the foliage is just, it's so phenomenal. It's so extraordinary. If I had to pick one, I would say this is my favorite Sansevieria. It's so promising too. Like it's so rewarding to grow. I grow it in a west-facing window, and I water this one decently often because it's in a terracotta pot and it's in a mixture that's probably roughly maybe 2 to 1, maybe 1 to 1 perlite to soil. I'd say it's like 2 to 1 now that I'm sticking my finger in the mixture. It's so easygoing. I have never had an issue. I've never had a qualm with this plant. It's just been nothing but reward to grow. So like I said, I grow it in a really bright window. I water it when I remember. I'm probably watering it like every 10 to 14 days. I feel like I water it more often sometimes than I feel like I should, but if I stick the moisture meter in it, it's dry. And while Sansevierias are very drought tolerant, if you go too far on the edge of drought, their roots can get damaged and they could lose that root structure and they become all brown and dried up. So you really don't want your Sansevierias to dry out too much, and you might notice if that has happened with some of your Sansevierias. They might look really puckered or wrinkled up and dried out, and you might water them and they might not bounce back right away. But because they are plants that are tough as nails, if you hold on to them and you continuously water them at the appropriate time, they will reform roots and they will be able to reabsorb water the way that they once have and replump back up, if you will. I've had to rehab a couple of Sansevierias in my time, but this one has just been so flawless, so easy. I can't recommend Sansevieria Bantel Sensation enough. There's another one. Oh, my broker just told me how to pronounce it, and I'm not going to pronounce it right. It's like Sayuri, Sansevieria Sayuri, which is a very similar one. It's a little bit more wider, strappier leaves with a little bit more white variegation. Absolutely beautiful. I haven't gotten it in my home yet because I don't necessarily have a space for it, and I would want a decently sized, like at least a 6-inch pot of it because they are quite a feast for the eyes. But that is one I will be adding to my collection at some point. I just don't know when, but I have some pretty easy access to it at the store where I work, so I am not worried about that. Okay, so I have one more to share with you guys, and this is one that was on my wish list for so long by the time that I got it, and I did get this one probably about a year and a half ago. I haven't had it for tremendously a long time, but this is a Sansevieria cylindrica, Sansevieria cylindrica Boncel, and I think this might have a little bit of a longer name, but we're going to refer to it as that for this video. And this is what they call the Starfish Sansevieria. What a shocker there with that name. The name says it all. This is also a very easy one, but of course you can tell from these thicker leaves, they're like as thick as my thumb, if not thicker, that this plant really does require some bright light, similar to a succulent or a cacti. So I actually grow this one directly next to my Bantel Sensation, and that's also directly next to my Sansevieria Gold Flame. So those are all living in the very similar vicinity. It seems as if some of my favorite Sansevierias tend to travel in cliques or live in cliques, whatever. But this is it's such a fun one. I really adore it. I had gotten this and it had 3 large plants in the pot, so I had taken out the 2 smaller of the large ones. They were still big enough, but I'd taken out the 2 smaller ones and planted them in their own pot, and then left this one by itself because it was just it did itself justice by itself. And it has since put off at least 3 babies, as you can see here, and it's so lovely to watch the babies grow. So eventually I might go in there and take them out for trades, because I think that they are about at that age where I could remove them from the mother plant. And when you remove Sansevieria babies, you usually would like to take the whole plant out of the pot, so it's easy to kind of remove the soil around the base. Of course, you could do it without removing the plant. It would just take a little bit more finesse. But you just want to remove the soil from probably a couple of inches below. Find where the root meets the mother plant. There's going to be typically one root that's going to be like the main artery, if you will, that connects to the mother plant. And as long as these little plants have enough roots of their own, you can just cleanly cut that main root, if you will, and plant these on their own, and they should recover very quickly, as these plants, as I said multiple times, are tough as nails. I'm so sorry about those trucks break or whatever. Oh, that's horrible. But Sansevieria cylindrica Boncel, the Starfish Sansevieria, very low key on the watering. I'm probably watering this one like every 14 days, given it's in a terracotta pot, and it's definitely in a mixture that's roughly 1-to-1 soil to perlite. So a very porous mixture. I do give this one a good watering though when I water it, knowing that I'm not watering it as often, but this is just such a well-draining mixture. It takes care of itself practically. So such a fun plant. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I love talking about my favorite plants. This is kind of a spur in the moment video, if I will admit. I was just kind of thinking, what do I want to film? And I was just looking at some of my Sansevieria endearingly, and I was like, I want to talk about my Sansevieria today, especially with the whole Dracaena flip. I just want to give them a moment of their own. But thank you guys so much again for joining. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments your favorite Sansevierias, and I will see you in my next video. Have a great day.